That is the laugh of madness. And his name is Kefka Palazzo, arguably one of Final Fantasy's greatest villains of all time, and one of the greatest in video game history as a whole. Kefka is the main antagonist in the 1994 JRPG Final Fantasy VI by Square, now known as Square Enix. Unlike most villains who start with significant power or influence, Kefka begins as a subordinate court mage. Over the course of the game, he manipulates events, betrays his allies, and seizes godlike power. His transformation from lackey to god of destruction makes his character arc particularly compelling. Kefka's ascension to power culminates in his destruction of the world and creation of the world of ruin, making him one of the few villains in gaming who succeeds in his apocalyptic ambitions. Kefka's design was crafted by Yoshitaka Amano, who was given significant creative freedom during the development of Final Fantasy VI. Amano's goal was to create characters that felt real and alive, while keeping in mind their representation as small pixelated sprites. Kefka's design drew inspiration from circus clowns, with several variations created during the conceptual phase. Amano likened Kefka to DC Comics' Joker, aiming to depict someone who was completely insane, and shared the Joker's chaotic personality. He described the design process as an enjoyable challenge. Writer Yoshinori Kitase played a key role in shaping Kefka's personality. Initially, the script provided little characterization for Kefka. However, while working on an early scene where Kefka approaches a castle, Kitase improvised an event where Kefka demands his soldiers dust off his boots in the middle of a desert. This moment was intended to hint at Kefka's unstable nature, a trait that would become central to his character throughout the story. Kitase noted that while the game aimed to balance narrative focus across its ensemble cast, Kefka, along with another character, grew in importance as the story developed. Originally, the game was meant to conclude with Kefka's defeat and the world saved. However, with additional development time, the team expanded the story to include Kefka's success in destroying the world, leading to the second act in the World of Ruin. Other members of the development team also contributed to Kefka's distinct persona. Pixel artist Kazuko Shibuya emphasized his crazy and somewhat childish nature through detailed sprite work and animations, using bold red and green hues to convey his eccentric and dangerous qualities. Shibuya aimed to make Kefka stand out among the cast by portraying him as unpredictable and limitless. She described him as her favorite character in the series. Ted Woolsey, who localized Final Fantasy VI for North America, also influenced Kefka's character through his translations. Working under Nintendo's censorship policies, Woolsey created memorable lines that would later define Kefka's persona in spin-offs, such as his famous declaration about building a monument to non-existence in Final Fantasy XIV. Kefka's appearance is marked by his flamboyant and eccentric style. He has long blonde hair tied in a ponytail and wears a feathered headdress. His face is painted white, accented with red around his eyes, and his lips are typically bright red or purple. A ruffled yellow collar with red stripes frames his neck. His eyes are striking green. In his original concept art, which influences many of his spin-off appearances, Kefka's robes are a chaotic blend of colors and patterns. His torso features a mix of white with pink polka dots, black with yellow stripes, and plain purple. He dons a flowing red cloak with a yellow lining, adorned with red triangle trim and yellow and red tassels. Over his left shoulder is a collection of patterned materials, including white with red triangle trim, yellow with blue crown-like shapes, blue with red and white stripes, and solid green fabric. Kefka's left sleeve is red, paired with a yellow glove that transitions to white at the wrist and has green accents along the fingers. His right sleeve is purple with red polka dots and ends in yellow fabric above the elbow. His right glove is orange with a large cuff, white fingers, red claws, and swirling flame-like patterns running up his sleeve. His leggings are red and his mismatched boots add to his erratic look. One is two-toned black with pink and gold lining, while the other is white with black triangle trim and pink accents. Both boots are curled and pointed. Around his waist, he wears a yellow skirt with a red sash over his right leg, featuring black triangles, red lining, and spotted patterns. Alternate concept designs show Kefka in differently colored robes and patterns. One notable design, used as the basis for his boss sprite in Final Fantasy VI, features more white and pink, white and black striped leggings, and a white ruffled collar with red and blue triangles. Another variant, which inspired his field sprite in the original Super NES release, portrays him in green and yellow robes with red on his right leg and slightly grey hair akin to Locker Cole. His field sprite for the 2014 iOS and Steam versions aligns closer to his original concept, featuring red and orange robes with a green belt, purple boots, and a cape with green spots and a leaf-like pattern. In the Pixel remaster, his sprite is further refined, showcasing red robes, a green collar, a yellow-green belt, one blue legging, purple boots, and a green and red cape, with a lighter complexion to emphasize his white makeup. As the god of magic, Kefka retains only his blonde ponytail and feathered headdress from his human form. His skin becomes violet, and he is mostly bare, except for a purple loincloth, with variations in shade across depictions. He appears more muscular, with some versions displaying a golden crest of swirling designs across his torso. In this form, he gains 6 wings, 2 upper pairs of pale purple feathered wings, and a lower pair of black leather wings with purple gradients. The central feathered wings are the largest, sometimes merging with the upper pair in different portrayals. Kefka is a character consumed by selfishness and malice, deriving his greatest pleasure from causing pain and destruction. He has no greater ambition beyond spreading chaos, as the act of destruction itself is his ultimate goal. Manipulative and deceitful, Kefka will toy with the emotions of others for no reason other than his own amusement. His insatiable desire to inflict suffering leads him to ever-escalating acts of cruelty, ultimately culminating in the devastation of the world and the loss of countless lives. At the game's climax, when confronted by the heroes, Kefka shares his nihilistic worldview. He believes life is meaningless. To him, all living things inevitably perish, everything cherished will be destroyed, and all accomplishments will fade into obscurity. He argues that striving to live in the face of inevitable death is futile, urging people to embrace annihilation. However, when the heroes reject his perspective and assert their reasons for living, Kefka becomes enraged, vowing to obliterate their ideals and dismissing concepts like love and hope as meaningless things he is determined to destroy. The Dissidia Final Fantasy games provide a deeper, more tragic perspective on Kefka's psyche. His insanity and cruelty are portrayed as a result of the Magitech experiments that shattered his ability to comprehend emotions like love and hope. His destructive actions stem from an endless, unfulfilled need to experience joy, which he can only find in annihilation. This insatiable drive ultimately leads him to self-destruction, laughing mournfully as he does so in a final, twisted act of despair.
It's not enough. Destroy more. Have got to destroy more.
Just stop. None of this makes any sense.
Destruction isn't supposed to make sense. It's only fun when it's senseless. Why create when it will only be destroyed? Why cling to life, knowing that you have to die? None of it will have meant anything once you do.
We live to protect what we hold dear. As long as you have that, you can find the meaning on your own.
Meaning schmeaning. The whole world's going bye-bye. You included. Life. Dreams. Hope. Where do they come from? And where do they go? None of that junk is enough to fulfill your hearts! Destruction! Destruction is what makes life worth living! Destroy! 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 Let's destroy everything!
It was your broken heart. You were trying to fill it with destruction. This misery must not be repeated. Ever. I must keep moving forward.
Kefka's personality is flamboyant and childlike, characterized by a volatile temper and a lack of self-control. He is prone to fits of rage at even minor provocations and frequently bursts into maniacal laughter. He mocks the horrors he causes with dark humor and displays a narcissistic obsession with his appearance, often admiring himself in mirrors. His profile in the Final Fantasy Ultimania reveals that he enjoys playing with dolls and despises General Leo, a morally upright soldier. While Kefka takes delight in harming others, he is deeply averse to experiencing pain himself. Seeing his own blood drives him into uncontrollable fury. The original Japanese portrayal of Kefka leans heavily into his childlike nature, with his dialogue reflecting an immature and petulant demeanor. He uses the pronoun bokuchin, typically associated with young boys, underscoring this aspect of his character. In contrast, Western translations emphasize his malicious and sadistic traits. Later adaptations, such as the Dissidia series, reintroduce elements of his childish behavior, including playful, taunting remarks during his interactions with Terra in Destiny Odyssey.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Wait, you're, what? Well, fine, you just go on and take her with you then. After all, she always comes running straight back into my arms anyway. What do I care? Go on, scram! Cheeky brat, that one. Thinks he can just waltz in and cart off anybody he pleases. Who does he think he is?
Before the events of Final Fantasy VI, Kefka underwent an experimental procedure to become the first Magitech Knight, granting him the ability to wield magic. However, the procedure was flawed, severely affecting his mental stability and turning him into a chaotic and destructive individual. Known for his ruthlessness, Kefka gained notoriety in the Empire for committing heinous acts, including the murder of civilians, which distanced him from many Imperial soldiers. Despite this, Emperor Gestahl valued Kefka's efficiency and entrusted him with increasingly significant responsibilities. When a frozen Esper was discovered in Narshe, Kefka used a slave crown to control Terra, testing her obedience by ordering her to incinerate 50 Imperial soldiers. Terra complied, earning a fearsome reputation as a witch across the region. Later, Kefka accompanied high-ranking officers Celes and Leo to Emperor Gestahl's declaration of war, though he dismissed protocol, neglecting to have Terra salute. Kefka sent Terra, escorted by Biggs and Wedge, to recover the Esper in Narshe. Though they overpowered the town's guards and located the Esper, it reacted violently to Terra, killing Biggs and Wedge and damaging the slave crown. Terra was rescued by Locke, a member of the Returners, a resistance group. Gestahl then dispatched Kefka to Figaro Castle to locate Terra. Despite Edgar, the king of Figaro, feigning ignorance, Kefka saw through his deception and later set the castle ablaze. Edgar, Locke, and Terra escaped on Chocobos, while the castle submerged into the desert. Kefka pursued them with Magitech soldiers but was ultimately defeated. At Doma Castle, Kefka attempted to take over General Leo's command and resolve the stalemate by poisoning Doma's water supply. When Leo refused to condone this inhumane tactic and left under orders from Gestahl, Kefka carried out the plan. Despite interference from Sabine and Shadow, Kefka succeeded, leading to the massacre of Doma's inhabitants. Cyan, one of the few survivors, joined the Returners after this tragedy. Kefka led an Imperial assault on Narshe, aiming to seize the Esper. The Returners regrouped to defend the city, ultimately forcing Kefka to retreat. Afterward, Terra connected with the frozen Esper, transforming into an Esper-like form before flying away. The Returners found Terra under the care of Ramu, who urged them to infiltrate the Magitech research facility in Vector to rescue captured Espers. At the facility, the group witnessed Kefka discarding weakened Espers Ifrit and Shiva, considering them useless. The Returners retrieved their Magikite remains and disrupted the research labs, only to find the remaining Espers drained of their energy. Professor Sid, realizing the grim truth about Magitech power, sided with the Returners. Kefka, however, accused Celes of betrayal and attacked. In a display of loyalty, Celes teleported Kefka and his men away, allowing the group to escape with Sid's help. Later, the returners sought aid from the Espers through the sealed gate to their world. Kefka revealed that Terra had been a pawn to open the gate for the Empire. As they clashed, the gate opened, and the enraged Espers emerged, capturing Kefka and launching an assault on Vector. The devastation led Gestahl to imprison Kefka for his crimes, including the atrocities at Doma. Gestahl proposed a ceasefire and sought the returners' help to locate rogue Espers and bring them to peace negotiations to end the war. Agreeing to the request, Terra and Locke joined an Imperial expedition led by General Leo to Thamasa, where the Espers had been sighted. They successfully convinced the Espers to return to Thamasa for talks with Leo. However, during the meeting, Kefka arrived with Magatech soldiers, ambushing both the returners and the Imperials. Claiming to act on Gestahl's orders, Kefka slaughtered the Espers, seized their magicite, and set Thamasa ablaze. General Leo confronted Kefka, but was ultimately deceived by illusions, leaving him vulnerable. Kefka murdered Leo in cold blood. As Kefka absorbed the magicite's power, another group of Espers, sensing the deaths of their kin, emerged from the sealed gate to attack him. Kefka effortlessly neutralized them, adding their magicite to his collection. He and Gestahl then entered the Esper world, discovering the Warring Triad, 3 ancient petrified deities responsible for creating Espers and magic. With their power, Gestahl raised the island containing the sealed gate into the sky, forming the floating continent with the Triad at its peak. The returners pursued Gestahl and Kefka to the floating continent aboard the Blackjack. During their confrontation, Gestahl paralyzed the returners using the Triad's magic and attempted to sway Celes to his side, offering her power and authority. Kefka handed Celes a sword, ordering her to kill her companions to prove her loyalty. Instead, Celes turned on Kefka, stabbing him. Enraged, Kefka called upon the Warring Triad. Gestahl tried to stop him, warning that unleashing the Triad's full power would destroy the world, but Kefka refused to relent. When Gestahl attacked him with magic, the Triad's protective field rendered the attacks ineffective. Kefka retaliated by commanding the Triad to unleash their power, striking down Gestahl and sending him plummeting to his death. Kefka struck Celes aside and manipulated the Triad, disrupting their delicate balance. Shadow arrived in an attempt to restore order by pushing the statues back into place, temporarily trapping Kefka between them. However, the damage had already been done. The imbalance caused by the Warring Triad unleashed devastating chaos upon the world, altering its landscape, claiming countless lives, and obliterating the Blackjack, scattering the returners across the globe. In the aftermath, over the following year, Kefka constructed a massive tower atop the remnants of Vector, using debris from the ruined Imperial city and surrounding areas. Stationed at the top of this tower, he drew power from the Warring Triad and declared himself the god of magic. The world, now a desolate shadow of its former self, lived in fear of Kefka's light of judgment, a destructive force he wielded to incinerate cities at will. Mobliz was reduced to ruins under this light, and South Figaro was also attacked, though its resilient citizens eventually rebuilt. Kefka later targeted Sen, where the destruction was limited to a single collapsing manor. A cult arose, worshipping Kefka as their god. Its followers, driven either by fear of his wrath or a sense of hopelessness in the desolate world, constructed their own tower in his honor. Many citizens, stripped of purpose and paralyzed by despair, flocked to join this cult, cementing Kefka's dominance over the shattered remnants of society. The returners regrouped and launched an assault on Kefka's tower, overcoming numerous challenges and destroying the Warring Triad on their way to the summit. Confronting Kefka at the peak, they faced his claims that life was meaningless and humanity's struggles were futile. The returners, undeterred, rejected his nihilistic views and shared their reasons for continuing to live. Enraged by their defiance, Kefka unleashed the destructive light of judgment upon the world. The returners engaged Kefka in a climactic battle, during which he assumed the form of a divine entity. Despite his immense power, they managed to defeat him. As Kefka faded away, the magic sustaining him and the world began to disappear. The magicite the party carried crumbled into dust, and Terra, whose powers depended on magic, felt her abilities fading. Using the last remnants of her strength, Terra guided the party out of the collapsing tower to safety aboard the Falcon, their new airship. Though her magic was gone, Terra survived due to the emotional connection she shared with the orphans of Mobliz, allowing her to remain in the world as a human. With Kefka's death, the world began to heal and rebuild, and the returners celebrated their hard-fought victory, looking forward to a brighter future. Unlike many Japanese narratives, Kefka's character lacks the typical shades of grey. He doesn't have a tragic backstory that explains his descent into sadism or evokes sympathy. Nor is he a villain with a noble cause gone astray. Yet, he isn't merely evil for evil's sake. There's an unmistakable, twisted darkness within him, a malevolence that feels deeply ingrained and authentic. While his actions and personality are driven by this inner corruption, it's clear there's no trace of goodness or redemption in him. Kefka Palazzo stands out as one of the greatest villains in video game history because of his unique combination of flamboyant charisma, chilling unpredictability, and genuine success in achieving his diabolical goals. Unlike many antagonists who are driven by tragic backstories or misguided ideals, Kefka thrives on chaos for its own sake, embodying nihilism in its purest form. His transformation from an unhinged court jester to a godlike figure of destruction is a testament to masterful storytelling, as players witness firsthand the escalation of his malevolence. Kefka's shocking triumph in reshaping the world in Final Fantasy VI sets him apart from traditional villains who are often thwarted before their ambitions are realized. Coupled with his memorable one-liners, haunting laugh, and deeply unsettling presence, Kefka's legacy endures as a villain who is both entertaining and profoundly terrifying, leaving an indelible mark on players and solidifying his place as the gold standard of video game antagonists.
Here comes Kefka! Let's teach them a thing or two, or three! It's a beautiful day for a massacre!